Hello, and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Ritchie of the MHRT Network. Before we get into it and do all the intros, whatever video you're watching us on, go ahead and click that like button. And if you're not subscribed to the channel you're viewing us from, go ahead and do that too. And below in the description of the video are all of our channels, and go ahead and do that on all of them. It really does help the show out. Get more like-minded fans in here joining us live. And with that in mind, over to Alex Gibbons. Thank you for joining us today, Alex. You can find Alex and his content over on Arrowhead Addict. Got some great articles over there. And then we got Coach Defense from the Lockdown Defense podcast. If you missed it, Tuesday was a bit of a larger episode. By the way, tell Kurt I'm quite upset. I showed up and he did not.
Yes.
Got some beef.
That is unacceptable.
Right.
I think that he must have just forgot to find a hat, so he was just too embarrassed to show up on the screen. But with that in mind, I will not necessarily forget or forgive, but hopefully he'll be there next week.
Oh yeah, he should be back next week.
And T3, Mr. Tom Jones, thank you for joining us this evening as a Raiders fan to give us all of the great Raiders content, and also the fans of the show who are definitely looking for a Raiders perspective here. Thank you for joining us, and good to see you.
Thank you. Captain Jack is on the sidelines, a la Jimmy G nursing an injury. So I'm in his stead.
He's Jimmy Gian. He's Garoppoloing.
Exactly.
So is that strippers or hookers? Oh, sorry.
Both.
Could be all the above.
Okay.
EOAF, both.
Sorry, you went there. So I had I should have also included porn stars in there too, because that's what Jimmy G's real thing is, right?
But
Jack probably wouldn't argue. Jack probably wouldn't argue with any of that.
He's got I think Zion's got him beat now in that.
He just might. But if we're talking NFL, it's Jimmy. If we're talking NBA, it's definitely Zion. Trick Daddy extraordinaire.
Yep. So we got a great show for you tonight. It's pretty packed, so we're gonna kind of jump right into it because there's quite a few things to go through, and we want to make sure we get all of your comments here. Before we do dive into the topic here, I just want to thank a bunch of you for joining us live. We got BPA Bronco, Avatar, we got John Leon, Anna Diaz, just a whole group of great people here that are joining us live. And by the way, I'm just reading those that have made comments. I know there are actually more of you who have joined us live, so go ahead and leave those comments and questions down below. I do think it's a pretty cool idea, so I'd like to see the chat start filling out with the answer to this general question from Biggie Bronco, which is everyone give a shout out to what state you're from. Well, I'm not from any state, so thanks. And what team you're rooting for and what year you became a fan. So I think that's a great idea. I think it's great to kind of see where people are in the world. I know it might come as a shock, but there's more than one country. There are those of us who live outside of the United States of America. And it'd be great to know what team you're rooting for and what year you started doing so, because we can get into a whole fan episode of that kind of stuff, which I did on my former podcast before this one, where we went right into everyone's kind of intro to their team and the fandom stuff. It was pretty neat show. With that in mind, today we're going to dive into positional breakdown, and we're going to go on the offensive side of the ball, and we're going to start ranking our position groups on each of our teams and kind of comparing notes and all those sorts of things. So I think it's going to be a great show, and I expect a lively chat because I'm pretty sure most people will disagree with most of our takes. And of course, who doesn't like that kind of disagreement on a podcast? So stay tuned and we'll go right into it. Coach, did you want to maybe start with some of your rankings, or do you want to go by position group? How do we all want to go about this? We can kind of do it a few different ways.
Well, yeah, that was going to be my question. That we want to go position by position and just break down quarterbacks round robin and then do running backs.
That's the easiest way.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is pretty simple. I mean, we're going to do quarterbacks first. Yeah, I think it's pretty simple and pretty cut and dry for that. That shouldn't be a whole lot of argument when it comes down to who it is. I mean, unless you just bias and don't have any logical bones in your body. Of course, Mahomes is number one. I mean, we can't argue that. There's no argument at this point. You can hate, but you can't argue. You can't argue the facts. Of course, to me, Justin Herbert is second. Russell Wilson is third, and Jim Garoppolo is fourth. I mean, it's just pretty cut and dry. I mean, production numbers. It just sheer talent. Upside. Who you want to. Three of those guys are going to either are making or going to make. $200, $300 million playing football at least. So, or have in Russell Wilson's case, and what Patrick Mahomes' contract ultimately will be. So, yeah. So those are my rankings from top to bottom, 1 through 4. Like I said, Mahomes, Herbert, Wilson, and Garoppolo. Hopefully Garoppolo stays healthy and he stays out of the boom room, and he'll play some football.
Might help him. Who knows?
It might. I don't know. I mean,
he might pull a Tiger Woods, and then that's what kind of gives him the victory laps, right? Where
hey man, whatever works for
him. It is what it is.
Tiger had
it is what it is.
Win when he was doing that. So.
He did. He had a real good run.
That's exactly what my point was, right?
Yeah. So who's going to go next?
So
does anybody refute
Coach,
my list?
I'll go next.
I actually think I think this is an interesting comment here by Matt, which I think should get us started with what I expected from today's podcast, which is a whole lot of but this and but that, and I'm not sure about this. That's why we do it. This is great. I love kind of hashing this stuff out, and we can do so cordially. So there's a two-pronged rebuttal that I have to this, which is sort of. Like the answer is sort of. His team went to the Super Bowl, but he was not healthy for the Super Bowl. So I think that is something to consider there as well.
Well,
he played.
Herbert did not do that. Oh, you're right. He did. He was in that last one.
He threw an interception.
Right.
He played. He's there.
And he didn't do much.
He didn't win the game.
No, he did not.
I mean, you're right. He was basically schemed out of the game.
Well, let's just put it plain, and let's just say what it is. You can play. If we're going to talk coach speak here, you can do last man with the chalk already. What if this? What if that? He did this. He didn't do that. But what did the shirt numbers tell you?
Yeah.
What did the shirt numbers tell you? Because it's quarterbacks in this league throughout my 40 plus years of watching the game have gone to the Super Bowl and have been the reason why. Trent Dilfer comes to mind. Trent Dilfer comes to mind.
They got rid of his ass after they won.
Right. I mean, you can go back and forth. Quarterbacks that have gotten people to the Super Bowl have not getting new deals. Doug Williams. People that have gotten new quarterbacks and just been a game manager. Trent Dilfer. We can go on and on and on about. I mean, Joe Flacco. We don't consider outside of being playoff Joe, but Joe Flacco would be an elite quarterback. So, your system and your situation sometimes dictates whether or not you make it to the Super Bowl. Now, winning Super Bowls and being the reason why, like that's why you give Patrick Mahomes a lot of credit. Patrick Mahomes is the reason why, in large part, they made the 3 Super Bowls they made and won the 2 of them. I mean, so we can split hairs all day, but the facts are the facts. The talent is the talent. Nobody's going to say that Justin Herbert is not a more talented quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. Point blank, period.
And I would even argue, you look at Matthew Stafford, for years, a good, stable, solid quarterback for the Detroit Lions in a losing system. He was never going to take a team to a championship. You put him on the Rams with an award-winning defense, a championship caliber defense. All of a sudden, there you go. 1 year, he wins the championship.
There it is.
I wouldn't be surprised if Derek Carr surrounded by, and this may piss some people off, but Derek Carr surrounded by good talent in New Orleans in a very winnable division. Could make it a deep playoff run, and could be in a situation where once again you've got a good stable quarterback, a lot like Matthew Stafford, could possibly lead that team on.
Yeah, that's a good argument. I mean, you can look at it
agree.
from a Dan Marino perspective. One of the best statistical quarterback, one of the best statistical quarterbacks ever to play the game. Never made but one Super Bowl out of the whole entire, 15 plus years he played. But you can't sit here and tell me that he's not super hyper uber talented and one of the best throwers of the football ever to play the game. Nobody's gonna argue that either.
Give you one further than that, and this tells you how old I am. You go back to a guy named Fran Tarkenton, who took the Minnesota Vikings to numerous Super Bowls and pretty much carried that team on his back and was a playmaker, kept the plays alive, play after play after play, but couldn't get them over the hump.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Now, we're just talking pure talent here. We're not talking about what he did, what his winning record is. I mean, Super Bowls he won. We're just talking about pure talent here. 1 to 4.
So coach, 1 to 4. Here it is. Patrick Mahomes, number 1. Herbert, number 2.
Mhm.
Russell Wilson, number 3. Aiden O'Connell, number 4.
I knew you were going to do that. I was waiting. I knew he's going to do that. Either he's going to flip Aiden with Wilson or he was going to put Aiden in 4. It's one of the two. I just knew that was going to happen. I knew it was happening. We understand that Tom is a Derek Carr guy. He's not a Jimmy Garoppolo guy. We understand that.
I'm not a Jimmy Garoppolo guy. I warned everybody on our podcasts way back toward the beginning of the year that I warned everybody, do not pick up Garoppolo. But I knew the Raiders were going to. But I just kept saying that's not the way to go. But I mean, it's there. I'll be the first one to admit I'm wrong if it happens to be the case. But he's not going to last.
Matt, to have part of your name be Marino is insulting to that question. Like, you shouldn't be a damn Marino fan just because of your name. Like, really. I'm gonna call you Marinovich from now on. That's your name, Matt Marinovich. But again, that's splitting hairs too, because if you get Dan Marino to Steel Curtain defense in his prime of his career, I promise you'll win 5 or 6 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So again, it's not a one man sport, but the quarterback position is probably the most position on the field. But if you don't have a good supporting cast,
the most too, though.
But that's true. Like, yeah. Too much of the credit, too much of the not enough of the blame when things go wrong, right? But if you don't have a good supporting cast around you, no matter how good you are, i.e. Matt Stafford, i.e. Dan Marino, those guys, you're not going to be as successful as you need to be because you don't have a good supporting cast around you.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. I have a different ranking though.
Are you going to put Russell Wilson? I'm not going to see your thunder. Go ahead, though.
You have Aiden O'Connell ahead of Russell Wilson?
Well, I'll get there. So I have Mahomes first. I have and just for the fans that are joining us here, thank you for joining us. My rankings are premised on recency, not past. And I think it's important that I frame that because that matters, right? Russell Wilson has won and been to a Super Bowl. So like that is something that needs to be called out, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it absolutely doesn't mean that he's playing at a Super Bowl level or caliber right now today. So my rankings based on today, not yesterday or yesteryear in that matter, is I have Patrick Mahomes as first. I have Justin Herbert as second. I have Aiden O'Connell / Jimmy Garoppolo as number 3. And I have Russell Wilson as 4th. Okay. And now it is certainly possible that by the end of the year, we can be flipped, right? Wilson has the opportunity with some of the offensive weapons on our team. If he plays like he did at the back end of last season and not like he did for the first 3 quarters of the season last year, he has a shot to, leapfrog at the very least, I think, Jimmy Garoppolo and Aiden O'Connell, and has the opportunity to also potentially get ahead of Herbert, depending on how well he plays and or if he can kind of, elevate himself again. It's possible. I'm not saying it's likely. I'm saying it's possible. I think it's unlikely that he fully catches Mahomes, but again, different coach, better weapons, better scheme, a little bit more structure. I think for a guy like Wilson is what's needed. So we'll see. But right now he's 4th.
I understand he has taken off quite a bit of weight too. So and Peyton,
he's not fat.
I expect a lot of him. Yeah. So
still
that could have an impact on his
33.
game. Yeah.
But I ironically had the same list as Coach in T3. I was more curious if anyone would put Mahomes at 2 or something like that. But
Yeah, no, I think that.
but I mean, in
Not
my
this stage of the
opinion,
game.
looking at it, I think
how
it's,
we did this
you
a
know,
year ago, maybe.
Yeah, right. Yeah, can't now. But
No, not at all.
yeah, I definitely think that there's a significant drop in tier from Herbert to Wilson and Garoppolo, and I solely, so kind of how Richie did it. I was like a recency thing. Granted, Wilson had an absolute trash year last year in terms of recency, but I think when you look at him and Garoppolo as the two planned starters, I mean, Garoppolo's, I think, only played in one full season in his 6 years in San Fran. So, I mean, you have to anticipate that he's going to go down if they proceed as scheduled with him. You know, at some point he's going to go down. That's going to create, you know, he's not going to have the full sample size as that. And I think there's more upside with Wilson and Peyton coming in. You know, also because there kind of has to be, because I mean, in my opinion, it's kind of a make or break year for him. Because if he's anywhere close to what he was last year, I mean, you have to think that Denver is going to find a way to move on from him. And to me, Garoppolo is just kind of a stopgap for, let's see how the rest of the roster is and how competitive we are. And if we need to make an aggressive move, you know, we're a QB away. We do that next year, or, you know, work up O'Connell. But, you know, I mean, to me, Garoppolo is the only one that's not the QB of the future for the team. So, you know, I think that kind of goes to the weight of where you would put him on top of, you know, he's not going to probably play a full season. And while he is a relatively successful QB, I mean, I think that's, you know, like we talked about, more of the rosters around him and the supporting cast, which, you know, I think he has a pretty solid cast in Vegas, but that's just more in terms of offensive weapons. I mean, like, he's not going to have the same type of defense he had in San Fran. You know, he's not going to have the same help that he did, you know, with the success he had there. But with that being said, I also think there's a kind of an intriguing amount of upside with him returning to McDaniels' system, you know, and the one that, while it was a relatively small sample size, you know, he at least gave him the opportunity to get traded to San Francisco and then get a really fat contract. So, you know, you never know if he's healthy and back with him, you know, kind of similar to, we talk about Russ making a move up. I think Garoppolo could too. But with that being said, I don't think either one of them, whatever they're doing, is going to surpass Herbert as, you know, as what did Coach say, like 1B in the AFC West, you know.
1B, that's right.
Right.
But
Well,
I mean, I
agree.
I think of all the positions we're going to rank, I think that's probably going to be the only one that
there's no arguments.
there's not a whole
Right,
lot of
right,
argument with.
Right. Agreed.
It's kind of hard to
Agreed.
argue,
I was
really.
literally
It
about
really
to
is.
say
I
that.
mean, yeah, stop eating all those dangerous sandwiches. That's funny. That's funny.
Dude, they got rid of those so fast.
I know.
Oh yeah.
You always
yeah.
listen. That is persona non grata when it comes to Subway.
I mean, it's just wild though. And you think about how much money they probably spent, and then they pull it so fast.
But also it speaks to the volume how much money you have. We can just kind of write that off and act like it didn't exist.
Yeah,
that tells
right.
you. That's, yeah,
right.
we just
They went with Russell. There's Charles Barkley and Steph.
There you go.
That's all we got.
What sandwich? No, we had the other guy.
Yeah, get Steph Curry back out here.
They brought Peyton Manning back into the fold, so they
Right.
got the other Broncos QB to do it.
Just the disrespect.
So people can be like, "There's Manning. I remember."
Oh, the disrespect. The disrespect. I'm curious about these running backs. I'm gonna love to see this because I had a lot of angst about this because it's all how you quantify the position. For me, who's at the top of this list? You know, I mean, just sheer pure production, versatility, durability. You know, just flat out. Are we just talking about flat out being a downhill running back? Does that matter more so? It all know how you view it. You know, as far as who is and who isn't at the top of the list. You know, then you have the, you know, two guys that are, well, one guy's really coming off an injury. You know, do you quantify the room as being the whole ranking, you know, or are we just talking about the starter? So that also plays into it as well. So how do you want to treat it? Do you want to classify the room, or do you want to classify the starter as being number 1?
I think you have to go the room. I think you have to go the room. And
I would say I considered the room, but obviously the leader of the room has a very big driving force, and at least where I ranked everyone. So
okay. All right. Well, for me, so if we want to do the room, and especially being that that's tough. That is really tough. But it's one of those things where I feel like some of our rooms are unproven. Like prime example, like take the Raiders for instance. Zamir White hadn't played yet, and he's clearly the backup. The Broncos have a backup that they haven't been in the system yet. Like he's just starting out in their system. So that's tough.
And everyone's kind of different too, like like the Chargers room, all those guys get carries. May not be a lot.
Well, right. Yeah. They all touch the ball once a game, but they do touch the ball. So that weighs into it. In the Chiefs are probably the only other room that has people coming back that aren't. You don't have anything brand new per se in that locker room. The Chiefs and the Chargers are probably the only ones, but no shade, but I don't think we're going to rank the Chiefs running back room, because that's not what they do as a team as high, high up on the list either.
I'm prepared to argue. No, I'm kidding.
The other.
I'm objective. All right.
So, Coach, the other thing that you have to factor in. I mean, this is what I agree with you. I think the running backs is probably the most difficult to rank.
It is
because I can 100% say that the Broncos, for example, in the running back room, have a legitimate question mark in terms of who the third running back will actually be. Like there are two probably front runners in that RB3 spot right now. One of them has never played in the league before. And to Alex's point, how are those guys going to be used? Right. So and the Broncos are also implementing a new offensive scheme, which kind of, again, goes into your point, Coach, and solidifies it in my mind, which is, if Peyton hybrids his old offense, then, Jaleel McLaughlin McLaughlin may be like the guy. Like, in fact, he may be a pivotal starter. Right. But then
he might be Alvin Kamara.
He might be like a Kamara type. Right. Or you can get Batty, who's kind of a mixed bag type dude as well. He's a big dude, and he can run and catch. But again, we just don't know, because everything is new. Like, at least with the Raiders, you have a pretty clear cut, A, B, C, D. Right? It's a pretty clear cut one. I think the Chargers are a little bit more clear cut, maybe not fully flushed out, and the Chiefs are a little bit more clear cut. But they have some question marks as well, though. So I think it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. Even the Chiefs, they got one guy kind of on the outs. Like, we're surprised he's still on the roster, right, Alex?
Yeah, he's still there, man.
He's still the OCEH. We'll see what Cap brings for him, but he needs a resurgence in order to stay on the team, in my opinion.
Now, what could throw a monkey wrench into the whole running back situation is a guy by the name of Dalvin Cook. I've heard his name bantered about several places.
That's why
George Payton, the general manager of the Broncos, is the one who helped recruit and bring Cook into the Vikings when he was drafted. So there's a connection there.
Yeah, well,
he's still in Miami, dude.
But now Cook has already said he wants to play for a winner. And I've heard that there have been some. Well,
there's only one.
I've heard the winners out there. I've heard some feelers out there that he might want to go out to LA and play with the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all. Listen, no matter what room Dalvin Cook comes into, he shoots those guys up the rankings. Like, I would argue. I would argue that I think even if you team him up with him, Pacheco and McKinnon, that's a hot room.
They're not going to get him. I mean,
I agree with you. That's not what y'all do. That's not. He doesn't fit y'all philosophy. Let's be honest. But I've heard Broncos rumors. Right? Yeah, that never worked.
Never gave him the ball. But
Melvin Gordon, LaShawn McCoy. LaShawn McCoy got benched halfway through the season. So yeah, that's not what y'all do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'll
it's
be
kind of
real-
an
I'll be
apples
real
to oranges
quick.
comparison mentioning those guys and then saying Dalvin Cook in the same sentence because he's way better than they all were. But
I'll be
Yeah.
real quick and say that I think in terms of rating the 4 rooms, it'd be Raiders 1, Chargers 2, Chiefs 3, and Broncos 4. Just
Wow.
based on where things are right now.
that's how I had it.
That's how I would rank it.
Okay. Yeah, the argument between Josh Jacobs and Austin Eckler gets me. I definitely give credit to Josh Jacobs for being a more productive runner. Like that's not a question. That's not a question. Just sure 3-down potential and explosiveness. It leans towards Austin Eckler, but Austin Eckler isn't a classic runner. So definitely have to give the nod to the Raiders. I mean, we don't know what Zamir White is. I mean, like you said, if you classify in the room.
I saw that Eckler's never had 1,000 yards rushing or receiving, flat out. But like he's also not used like that. Like Josh Jacobs led the league in rushing, but like he got 25 touches a game, and they're like just find the first dude and run him over. But like Eckler, it's like hey, here's an outside zone, like see what you can get. Here's a little screen. But like that's why I ranked Jacobs higher because to me he matters more to the success of the Raiders, right? Like Eckler scores touchdowns, but they still got Herbert. I mean, and Herbert's going to make that thing go.
Right.
And this is not to throw shade at Austin Eckler, but he was playing against a lot of defenses that just had some horrible tackling.
Well, yeah, I mean, his sheer elusiveness and the fact that his low body, center of gravity helped him out a lot. It's been helping him out a lot. I mean, he's only 200 pounds, but they say he's like one of the hardest people to tackle, period. That's just the way he's made and the way he's built, being 5'9" and 200 pounds, but, lightning quick, very shifty, short area quickness is good, but again, I mean, I'm definitely not putting him over Josh Jacobs. We just did, just the sheer production. Yeah, and just the sheer production and how to use and how to deploy differently. It's kind of an unfair argument. It's one of those things where you like Austin's is more of a scat back and more of a 3-down and
it scores.
Yeah, it scores touchdowns, but Josh Jacobs is your classic bell cow running back. So yeah, and then
I saw a stat that said Jacobs, right? So he had almost 1,200 yards last year that were after contact. Which was like 72% of his yards.
Right, because he has 1,600, right, and 1,200 after contact. That's insane.
And 90 missed tackles. So I mean,
that's also not sustainable.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It's a kind of a recency assessment as well, I think, and it's hard to not rank the guy that led the league in rushing as
number one.
Best.
Easy.
Well, the Raiders made a calculated risk when they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. He could have very easily just taken his toys and gone home and said, "You know what? I'm going to just kind of sandbag it." But he took offense to it. He had a chip on his shoulders, and he was going to go out and prove everybody wrong, and did the thing. And everybody knew he was coming, and they still couldn't stop him. So I credit him with putting the monkey on his own back and making it work.
He's trying to run from child support.
He said he's running like he's running from child support.
No, he's running for child support.
Oh wow. Okay.
I think he's got like 9
kids. If he pulls a Nick Cannon and gets one more, he's out.
Yeah, I honestly think he's got like 9 kids. I think it's crazy.
Really?
It's hold on, I'll look. I swear it's 9.
Wow, that's a lot. Yeah, aside his private life aside, like I said, he's which gives me such angst about the running back position, because how do you lead the league in rushing, have your best season on your last year of your deal, and him and Saquon both, and they still can't get paid?
And Dalvin Cook. I mean, Dalvin Cook was like top 5.
Right, and he got cut. Yeah, we're good.
Hey, we're out.
We're good.
Yeah.
Madison's going to take a friendly deal. We're out. Yeah, we're done.
The NFL needs to do something. The NFL needs to do something to change the compensation.
Yeah, I saw it was a thread talking about sort of conspiracy of, Gurley got that huge deal, and that was like he got it kind of when McVay came in, and then McVay like in a press conference was like, "I'm never paying a running back again. Like I'll just shuffle them." And then it was like 2 years out, like they win a Super Bowl, Gurley's out, and that was just like everyone's like kind of doing that, like just not not paying running backs, which
Well,
I mean,
yeah, right. I give
I guess I
McVay,
get.
yeah, I give McVay a lot of credit for setting trends because he said the no starting, using your starters in preseason trend, and everybody's doing that now. He's starting the running back
Yeah.
trend. So yeah, it's a lot of things he changed in the league that seem to be a copycat version of what he's doing. So yeah, I definitely give him credit for that. But yeah, I mean, that's not to beat around the bush too much about the rankings. I know we got other things to talk about. I would say for sure, like I said, I give the Raiders a nod. I want to know what Zamir is going to be in this season. Hopefully he gets some touches and they don't try to burn Josh Jacobs out, assuming he shows up to camp, because there's rumors that if he don't get a deal, he's not showing up. But yeah, so hopefully Zamir can get some touches. We kind of see what he was. Maybe he can give us those those college highlights that he had in his last couple of years of school. But so I would say Raiders 1, Chargers 2. I say Broncos 3 and Chiefs 4. Those are my 4 rankings.
My kicker again is going to be based on recency.
Mm-hmm.
I think Javonte Williams, when healthy, based on how he was running, is right up there.
Oh yeah,
Like,
but it's only
right
in dealing with the same argument of recency. He only had a season and a half or season and a quarter to go off of, so he's still fresh in the league. So it's kind of hard to put him too high because we haven't seen a full gamut of what he can do yet, and how he's going to respond off that knee.
Yeah, he couldn't stay healthy, which I have to knock him for when it was his turn to do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You have to. Like, you just don't have a choice. And Tom, you made a great point. His running style is not sustainable.
No.
You cannot go down like I think he won angry runs on NFL Network like 3 or 4 times.
Easy. Easy.
Like you can't do that and not get hurt.
All right.
And during the last half of the season, the Raiders ran the offense through Jacobs because nothing else was working. They couldn't depend on Derek Carr to hit the receivers, and they just weren't. He and McDaniels weren't on the same page all year.
That was sabotage.
And diminishing returns. They just had
He's kind of talking about that
Jacobs.
now.
Yeah. He's chirping about a little bit. So how he felt disrespected.
Yeah.
Do the Raiders play the Saints by chance? Do they play the Saints? That'll be a great game.
I don't know.
They will next year.
I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to see the Raiders and the Saints play.
I have
all 4 teams play the Saints next year.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So I have the Raiders number 1 in terms of running back rankings. I have Chargers number 2. I have KC number 3 and the Broncos 4. My thing again, all of my rankings are premised and based off of where are you at today.
That's fair,
right? It just is. And more importantly, what did you do last season is really kind of what it comes down to. And the pain point is Williams last season did not play much.
Right.
And so as a result of that, I simply just can't rank him higher than 4th as the starter. And then even looking at the backups, like looking deeper into the room, Pirine was good but not fantastic. He had a few games where he popped, and then he had a lot of games where he kind of just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a guy that we don't even know if he's going to be able to run in the league in McLaughlin. And then we have Tyler Batty, who looked really good actually for the Broncos at the back end of last year. But again, how is he going to fit in the new offense? And he had games even last year where Batty did not do particularly well. He got stuffed in the backfield and some other things. So I just can't rank the Broncos running back room higher than 4th until we start seeing production on the field. And again, much like the quarterback, we have room to start jumping spots rather quickly.
I agree with that. That's kind of what I.
When you have the unmitigated gall to put your team last, then I gotta respect it.
Honestly, though, like if Javonte Williams played all of last season, regardless of what his stats were, I was putting the Broncos 3. But just because he's like the focal point, and I was only there for 4 games. I mean, it's tough to say. But I mean, he's got all the traits to be, right up there with your Ecklers and Jacobs, just not there yet. And, I definitely think there's a huge like there's a drop off from Mahomes and Herbert. I think there's a pretty steep drop off from Jacobs and Eckler. just based on what the Chiefs and Broncos RBs kind of have on their resume up to this point.
I agree, and I'm not trying to knock Eckler, but we saw Eckler last year try to get used in a Jacobs role in some games. It failed. It just did.
He's not that type of runner.
He's not that guy.
No, he's not that type of runner.
I'm not speaking out of turn. You literally said the exact same thing.
No, I 100% agree with you. 100% agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the problem that you end up with is that when Eckler's in and he's there on the field, you can scheme a certain way because you can expect a certain potential play from him, and so the defense can kind of adjust accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Tom, with Josh Jacobs on your roster, I mean, you got 3 or 4 different options with him. He can just stay back and pass pro. He's fantastic at pass protection. He can literally run it right up the gut and knock dudes right on the back. And then you also got kind of an end round pass catching other option from Jacobs, because he can kind of do it all. And I think that having that versatility from a running back is, dare I say, the gold standard in the league. And I think that you have that in Josh Jacobs, and his yardage shows. I mean, you don't get 1,600 yards and lead the league by accident.
True.
You just don't. I don't care. You just don't. You can't. So, I mean, I think running backs, can we all agree that running backs might be the one position group that might completely reshuffle by mid-season in terms of our rankings?
It could. It very well could.
Well, yeah. Similarly like Pacheco, right? He wasn't this full starter for.
No.
I mean, he played in every game, but he started 11 of them. So I mean, but we've all said it. I say it. Andy Reid doesn't use running backs the same way that Josh Jacobs or Eckler's used. Or Javonte Williams, really. So it's like hard to see if him being the true number one means, he's getting 1,200 yards. I mean, possible, but we just got to, I mean, there's upside with both Chiefs and Broncos backfield, just with what could play out this year.
And Reed could surprise everyone and all of a sudden start going more running back heavy, considering it worked so well for you guys last year. And Pacheco actually is in a more Josh Jacobs mold than, say, an Eckler, and even in a Javonte Williams mold than, say, an Eckler. So you have that additional versatility of a legitimate 3-down running back, which forces the defense to not kind of zone in on specific ways of playing, which coach, as a defensive coach, and that's 100% correct. I mean, defenses, when they have a guy in the field that can't do a thing, ignore that thing and say, if you beat us that way, then fine.
Right. Yeah.
It's just like the first thing.
Yeah. Listen. If this guy beats you, we'll live with it. Like he's not a factor typically.
Yeah.
So
if Eckler can run up the gut and right up the middle and get 10 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they give Eckler ball 25 times rushing, then we'll live with it.
Exactly.
Let's be real about it. That's simply not going to happen. But to your point, I think that it's weird, that we talk about how things may or may not shake out, because what Andy does is always that one thing that you're not ready for. That he gives you this pass heavy offense for 4 to 5 weeks, maybe longer. And, pretty successful with it. And then that one game when you just want to load up on the idea that you're going to try to stop the pass, then boom, he hits you with he hits you with a 20 to 25 yard carry game for his running backs, and they all are productive. So
my big thing with Pacheco too is that his traits remind me of Jamal Charles. Track speed. A very agile guy, and Jamal Charles was very successful in Andy Reid. I mean, successful before Reid got there, but even more successful kind of at the spark of Reid. So I think that's kind of provide. I mean, granted, that's me trying to compare a 7th round rookie, coming into sophomore year to one of the best running backs in Chiefs history, and arguably a pretty solid 5-year stretch in the NFL history. But I think the upside's there, and that's what I'm most, as a Chiefs fan, interested to see, full off season as being the number one guy, clear cut number one guy with no sharing carries with Clyde, or I mean, maybe they will, but I can't imagine that. See if he kind of takes over more and takes off more than he did last year.
Yeah, and Pacheco runs angry for a guy that runs that fast.
Yeah,
He's an
that's
angry
what,
runner.
yeah,
I've never seen a guy run a 4.3 and run that hard and run that angry. So it's
Right.
going to be very interesting to see what he does this year.
Well, and Coach, to your point, at this stage here, Pacheco is now the clear-cut starter on the team.
Yeah, he definitely is.
And so Alex, again,
Mhm.
I guess a potential concern for the Chiefs with Pacheco is now that he's got that spot, is he going to continue to run with that same anger? I mean, he
Yeah.
looked pissed.
Oh, yeah.
Like when he was,
I mean, I'll say this: I think he would, because he was a 7th round pick. So I mean, he's got to fight for that bag at some point.
If
pretty soon,
if it is such thing anymore for running backs,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I mean, because what's 7th round? I mean, that's got to be like a 2-year deal.
Well, no, you get 4
50.
years there. Everybody gets 4 years in the league
Oh,
if you
okay.
drafted, but
but it's the money.
But the
It's the
scale
money.
drops significantly as you go round and round.
Yeah,
So he's not getting paid top dollar. Definitely not.
no.
Like his
But
total
yeah, I mean,
contract might be $1 million,
2 million. Yeah,
maybe
somewhere around there.
maybe
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, we'll see. Plus, they got McKinnon still there and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but
Right.
yeah, I suspect Clyde's done.
I would concur with that. I think it's pretty much. I think the writing's on the wall at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that covers the running backs. And
Yep.
we didn't get anyone arguing with us, which is
Rare.
great. I
I think
guess
they agreed.
great, rare. I know insert other comment there, but I think it's an interesting one. So I guess it might make some sense, since we went to running back, since there is some adjoining success factors with this position group. Let's move on to the offensive line, because the offensive line has a huge bearing on the success of a running back. Frankly, it also has a huge bearing on the success of
your team,
the quarterback, the entire team, really, if you're going to be honest.
Really.
But certainly a huge benefit to have a great offensive line for a running back, because that gets you immediately 2 yards, or if not 3 yards, off the line of scrimmage on a per carry basis, just by having a good offensive line. So I'm going to throw over to Tom first. Let's hear your offensive line rankings for the AFC West.
And this may surprise you a little bit. And again, we may get some blowback on that. Of the 4 groups, it's my opinion that the Chargers have the best offensive line of the 4.
I agree.
That's my assessment.
I agree.
Just and you said based on where they are now. Second, I have the Raiders. The Raiders really, as they started off the season.
Somebody please clip Rich's face.
Okay, all right.
42 minutes into the podcast, clip Rich's face when Tom said the Raiders are number 2. We got to get that clip. They got to have it. It's got to happen. That's the short of the week.
They started out, and again, they started out slow, but this line gelled. They really did, and it was the line that did a lot of the upfront production that allowed Josh Jacobs to be the top rusher in the league. Third in this group is Denver. I have Denver third. Now they McGlinchey, they brought him in, and I think they overpaid for him. But again, I believe of the group that Denver is number 3. Kansas City. Now again, I preface this by saying that Kansas City, even though they're 4th in my opinion, they have behind center the straw that stirs the drink. You know, the guy who can make the plays happen and assess where the defenses are at their weakest and make plays happen. So you don't necessarily have to have a stellar offensive line in order to make your offense be stellar, if that makes any sense at all. So, and again, I'm not, by saying that the Raiders are the second best in the group, I'm not saying that they're ready to beat the world. I'm just looking at them based on the production they had, the fact that they gelled together, and the fact that McDaniels and Ziegler did not bring in a top free agent. They had Justin Herron that they brought in, and I think they really were hinging their season on him. He came in and got injured early. I think they're planning on him coming back, bouncing back strong, And again, that you can laugh all you want. That's my assessment. There you go.
The fact that
With
he's
all due
drinking,
respect,
respectfully, sir, I disagree.
I said with all due respect.
Right.
All right?
There you go. There you go.
I literally have one comment, and I'm looking for some justification, please. I'm trying to be kind. I'm trying not to just
Let her
absolutely
rip.
go
Let her rip.
scorched earth.
Let her rip. Let her rip.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly disagree.
Don't
with
think we're looking at the same people on the rosters.
I think team bias crept into the room on that one. I just have to be honest about that one. It's I mean, because let's be real. Outside of Colton Miller, there's a lot of questions on this line from the Raiders' perspective. I mean, let's just be real about it. I like Dylan Parham, but he's unproven at this moment. So Colton Miller's the only person I'm giving credit to being good on the Raiders line. To be honest,
here's my one comment. So here's another one. Who's your right guard?
Bars.
Who's the right guard? It's probably going to be Heron.
Who's your current project?
Right now, it's the Luminor. Right now, it's Jermaine Luminor.
No, your right guard.
Right now,
it's Bars.
Okay.
Bears.
Your projected right tackle right now is Jermaine Illuminor. Your projected right guard is Alex Bars. Center
he won't be the starter yet. Andre James is center.
Your projected starters right now, based on where we're at today,
right,
is left to right: Miller, Parham, James, Bars, Illuminor. And as
Bars won't be the starter.
Well, but that's my point, though, is the projected starter is a dude that is likely not even going to start. So that is, we'll say that the reason for my reaction when you said Raiders at number 2, because it just makes no sense to me when you have a projected starter right now who is likely not going to be a starter come the season. When, I mean, I'll just take the Chiefs, and I agree, by the way. I think the Chargers are sneaky first. And the reason why the Chargers are sneaky first is because of depth. If we are eliminating depth on the line, I actually think the Chiefs are the first ranked offensive line. But if we are factoring in depth and quality of depth as well, I don't even think it's close. I think the Chargers are far and away the best offensive line, because you can have 2 injuries on their offensive line, and they already showed last year that they can be extremely competitive. So
no argument here.
Yeah, I'm a Broncos fan. I'm not even a Chargers guy. I literally am calling it like I see it, and we saw it last year. They had massive injuries across their whole team.
Yeah,
Chiefs also,
for all intents and purposes,
Chiefs also won the Super Bowl, though.
Kneecaps or something. They kept on getting hurt.
Well, you also got to realize that your tackles are different. So I think that's what kind of puts the caveat on the Chiefs going forward. And we're talking 2023, 2024 versus the last season.
But I mean, your guards are guys that, well, I guess Zion, but like Saylor wasn't the guard last year. He was your tackle. It's like, you don't know that's gonna pan out. You don't know that Slater's the same guy. I mean, but
the odds are. I mean, let's be real. The odds are he didn't. All he did is hurt his arm. He didn't hurt his leg. He didn't have a debilitating injury. He just hurt his bicep. I mean, just like I know, one, for Salier's perspective, going from tackle to guard is a much easier transition, right?
Oh yeah.
So that's how he played, and he was projected to be a guard. He was playing guard all season before Slater got hurt. And again, Slater's, there's nothing wrong with his legs, nothing wrong with his mind. He's going to be fine. I would argue at this point, just junction, he's probably the best left tackle in the whole conference. I mean, whole division. So
yeah, I think so. I think that the Chiefs. I rank the Chiefs 1, Chargers 2. I think the Chargers have potential to be the best, but I think looking at kind of the reshuffling around, and it's you got guys that are coming off a rookie year. Whereas the Chiefs have probably the best left guard, center, right guard combo in the NFL.
Oh, that I will give you that. Your interior line is definitely good. Your questions for me is your tackles, and I think that's the most important. I guess you can say, because you can see in the Super Bowl y'all lost. That was your trepidation, and your issue is the fact that your tackles wouldn't hold up. So Juwan Taylor, And
And
Jawan
it was
Taylor and
the whole
Donovan
line.
Smith. Yeah, but true. But if Donovan
None
Smith,
of the starting linemen now were starting offensive linemen in that Super Bowl loss.
agreed.
So-
So if Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor can hold up as like
Coach-
Wiley and Brown did last year, then fine. We know we can argue 1A 1B maybe, but the way it lines up right now, it Chargers and the Chiefs line, I think that we got all people returning on our line. They're been in the system. You got new guys, so I think that kind of puts us a slight bit ahead of the Chiefs, in my opinion.
The only thing
And
you
then
have to factor in that
Raiders.
Super Bowl. Sorry,
Say it
the only
again?
thing you have to factor in that Super Bowl is the dude that slaughtered the Chiefs, and I mean slaughtered the Chiefs, was Vita Vea. And he was coming right up the middle. And he was taking on
It also wasn't
taking
Creed
on two
Humphrey,
of your
though,
interior.
so it's
he
none
took
of the
on-
same interior linemen, so that argument is mute. Like Trey Smith wasn't the right guard. Joe Tooney was not the left guard. Creed Humphrey was not the center. They literally were like, "Oh shit, the Buccaneers like destroyed us. Goodbye, offensive line. We got a new
Smart
one."
move.
But you can't sit here and knock the current guys for what happened in that Super Bowl because it's not the same unit. And this unit won the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I'm not comparing that line to this line. I'm just comparing the personnel differences, like just having different tackles, versus your interior line is impressive. That's ironclad. They're good. I give them a lot of credit. I think Trey Smith is a stud. Creed Humphreys is definitely a stud. And I think that Joe Tooney is obviously a Pro Bowler. So I give the interior line of credit. I'm just questioning your tackles. We didn't change our tackles. You guys did. And again, the tackle is the most important position from a pass protection perspective than in a whole entire line. So I think, if I had to line up your tackles versus my tackles, I think on paper, our tackle is going to do much better than yours coming out the gate. They say Donovan Smith has issues with penalties. So that's going to be a detriment if he continues that trend. So we just got to see exactly how that's going to shake out. And he's playing left tackle. That's the blind spots tackle. That's so you gotta kind of hedge your bet when you see how he pans out before you say that they're clear cut number one, in my opinion.
So I just want to call out John's contribution here to Captain Jack and the Raiders fan base here to keep the lights on over that way. That may be true. You may have some flexibility there. The question though is the level of play with the flexibility on the line. In my opinion, you saw a Chargers offensive line last year where there was two guys on the line that were hurt, and the team in some respects got better.
I mean, we only one person that started didn't get hurt all season. That was Zion. Like everybody else at some point another got hurt.
Right. No, but my point though is that you had two linemen and at least one of them was a tackle, as in like a premium position, as you alluded to earlier. Mm-hmm. And in some regards, the Chargers actually got better after they brought in the backups. Because I actually think that your guard that you brought in as a backup is actually a better starter than the guy that he came in and replaced. I can't remember who it was that came in, but that guy played lights out.
Well, that was solid play for Slater. I don't think he was going to play better than Slater did last year, but he did a bang-up job. I give him credit. He did a bang-up job.
And so I actually think that you had interchangeable guys at key positions that are hard to get backups that are that good.
And we drafted another one.
that makes all the difference in the world. Like that, that is such.
It does.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it just does.
We're on the same page.
So, and so that's kind of where I'm at with that. I'm going to dive into my rankings, and I'm looking forward to getting flamed by those in the comments. So this will be fun. So I have Chargers 1, Chiefs 2, Raiders 3, Broncos 4.
Yep. I put Raiders Broncos 3-4 too.
We are. So the Denver Broncos are coming off of another horrible season. We have not seen the offensive line play in this system again, just like the last kind of block of positions. I reserve the right to see a bump in ranking from the Denver Broncos offensive line if the right guys gel properly. So what I mean by that is when you look at the new guys that the Broncos brought in, because we did bring in 2 new guys that are going to be starters on the offensive line right off the hop. You have Ben Powers at the left guard, and you have Mike McGlinchey at the right tackle. McGlinchey is a legitimate right tackle, but he comes from a different system. And so you're asking for a guy to change systems and still play well. That's a question mark, and we simply just don't know the answer to that. So you can't just simply say, oh, he's a good right tackle, he's going to do well. Maybe. We don't know.
Jackson Barr's getting cut.
And then Ben Powers, I think, is a very versatile left guard. I'm really not particularly concerned with the guard spot because there's not a whole lot of issues with a guy that's built properly for the position. A guy like Moody, for example, is a spectacular guard, but he's got short arms, so he struggles a little bit in pass pro, but he's spectacular in run blocking. So unless you have a guy that's kind of proportioned incorrectly for the position, generally speaking, the guards are either good or you're not, and you can transition to various schemes. It's the tackles that are the ones you need to be really concerned with, because they have to, a lot of the times they do kind of roundabouts for different things and those sorts of things. So I just think that what your real issue is with tackles. And then last but not least, Garrett Bowles. He's coming off of a major injury. I'm still very, very concerned with Garrett Bowles and how durable he's going to be coming off of such a major injury. And while I like our backup in Cam Fleming there, I'm grading most of our stuff or my stuff based on the starters. And then my backup tiebreaker, if you will, is depth. And that's what I use for Kansas City. And that's what I use for the Chargers to say, what's your depth at? And I'm sorry, the Chargers just killed the Chiefs in terms of depth. It's not even close. And so that's why I have my rankings, and that's where they are. And I hope I'm not pissing off too many Broncos fans, although I might be, because I think that's 3 in a row I've ranked the Denver Broncos fourth.
What else is new? That's typically your MO.
I'm really good at that.
Hey, you're being objective, though.
I am. I really am.
Right.
Yeah,
It's all this.
My
all this
biggest
means
thing.
is, Rich, all this means is you're going to be banned from going into the Denver Walmarts.
Okay.
That's cool. They can't quite make it up to Canada to stop me from going in, so we're all good.
There you go.
The
So
carrier
did we cover
pigeon
off?
gets shot at the border.
That's funny. So did everybody cover their rankings for O-line?
Alex, I think you did too. Yeah.
Yeah.
You said yours basically matched mine, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have Chiefs 1, Chargers 2, I just put the Raiders above the Broncos strictly because right now they're at least returning the same 5 that started last year. So there's at least some consistency with that, which I think goes kind of a long way. But I mean, at the same time, there's upside with McGlinchey and Ben Powers that, Denver could kind of move up. But, I think similarly that there's kind of a bigger drop off from Chargers Chiefs O-line to Raiders Broncos.
I agree.
That's fair. That is fair. Well, I think the quick argument is going to be the next group that's tight end. So we can probably cover that next.
That's easy.
That's pretty easy to decipher. I think that is the quarterback argument. I think 2, 3, and 4 might get interesting, but I don't think 1 is going to be interesting at all.
No,
very boring. Very boring takes. Very boring takes.
Alex, we're going to start with you. Who is your first?
So number one, I put Michael Mayer. No, I'm kidding. So my rankings, and again, I mean, I kind of considered the room, like the whole unit, tight end unit, but I mean, it's more so based off of the production that they had last year, and then kind of the upside, I guess, with the unit itself. But I mean, number 1, I put Chiefs. Obviously, Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the league right now, arguably one of the best tight ends to ever play football. So I mean, you got to be on some crazy drugs to try to say that someone in the division is better than him. Yeah. Number 2, I put the Chargers.
Really?
And I kind of ranked them all like team, but Gerald Everett, I mean, had a solid year last year.
He had his best year as a pro. He had his best.
I mean, he had a solid performance, and that's kind of where I preface why I rate. I mean, he had a solid performance last year, and I think that looking at the tight ends with Denver and Vegas, there's just a lot of uncertainty in what kind of usage and production they're going to get. Vegas, because you got rid of Waller, you brought in new guys. Denver, I mean, you have Dolchich still there, Alberto, but you got Peyton, and he brought Troutman in. So I think there's just a lot of uncertainty to know, which one of those two are going to be ranked higher than the Chargers unit with the production of Everett and Parham, being there. So then 3, I put the Raiders, strictly because I think, Hooper has always been kind of a solid tight end. And I think his production last year was a little staled from being on the crap ass Titans team with like Malik Willis throwing the ball.
Right.
And then, you got Mayer, who obviously has tremendous upside. I just don't know, like, I feel like McDaniels always loads up on tight ends and then like either uses one of them or none of them. So I just like don't know like if he's really going to have any sort of a rookie year or not. And OJ Howard's there as well, but I mean,
he uses one or none. He uses one, none, or all. Like,
yeah.
and it's literally like a coin toss on any given time. Like it's you just don't know.
It makes it hell for fantasy because you can't key on one tight end. There's everyone get the ball. It makes it hell for fantasy.
Because I know there was other stuff with Waller, but to me, if McDaniels was a truly valued tight ends, right? Like I think he would have made more of a priority to keep Waller and get him involved, and that wouldn't play out the way it did because he is a talented tight end. And I think if Waller was still here, I think I'd put Raiders too. But again, I kind of assessment was the uncertainty, with those Raiders and Broncos units. I mean, that's why I put Denver forward. I think Dolchich is a high quality tight end. I think could end up being a low key stud. But again, I just don't know like how Sean Payton's going to use tight end. Like I'm thinking kind of big picture, but when he was in New Orleans, I can really only think of Jimmy Graham. And then there was like never a priority for a tight end to be involved in his offense. So, I like kind of hesitant that, you got Dolchich who you drafted
really
last
wide
year.
Receiver.
Yeah. And then he just comes in and
use him as a big wide receiver.
He's a big wide receiver. Yep. That's exactly what it was. Very good one, by the way.
Yeah.
Very good one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Alex, I'm gonna jump on your back there. I've had the exact same rankings you do.
Really?
Chiefs obviously 1. I've got the Chargers as 2. And again, Richie said that let's look at where they are now. Now I will say that with Michael Mayer, there's a lot of upside there. I could see if the offense is utilized properly, where the Raiders could by the season's end be the second ranked tight end group. But right now, the way I see it as it stands, Chiefs 1, Chargers 2, Raiders 3, and the Broncos 4.
Wow. Well, y'all gonna love this one. Y'all gonna love this one then, because if you read the room, it could go slightly different, slide up or down scale if you read the entire room. Because, like you said, you get into Kelsey's such a massive production, head and shoulders above the rest in the whole entire division. Like, yeah, it's high, Rich. It's there. It's super high. I mean, we're gonna go off the screen how high
Hall
it is,
of
right?
Famer.
Yeah,
I have a Hall of Famer and everybody else.
First ballot, easy. He could go down as being one of the best. So Kelsey's got to be 1, and doesn't matter who else is in the room. Like he's got to be in 1. That's not an argument. Now for me, I think just from 1 through 3, the Raiders are 2 for me. I believe that. Like I think they got Mayer, and you brought in Hooper and OJ Howard, who's a certified freak of an athlete. Like he's 6'6", 255, 260 pounds.
But
run like lightning.
Been on 5 teams in 5 years.
True. I still argue they don't know how to use them. Like, how do you not be able to use a 6'6", lightning quick, basketball player of a tight end? Like who can't utilize that? I don't get it.
Howard is another Waller. He can't stay healthy.
That's possible. That's very possible. It could be the key to why he can't, because I know he tore his Achilles in Tampa, and he had some issues after that. So, but I mean, he's got all the qualities of talent, and same thing could be said of Waller. But OJ Howard just can't stay healthy. I don't see him
making the field too often.
Well, yeah. I mean, but
I mean, he balled last year too. The start of the year with Houston, right?
Yeah, but we don't know what happened after that. But
yeah, well,
yeah,
that's all right.
Right. But to Richie's and Alex's point, how your coach deploys tight ends? How many days deploys tight ends? Like he used one, none, or all. Like if he uses all, then we're going to see Hooper, Mayer, and OJ get targets.
Howard,
Howard get targets. So we will see all three get targets if we use them all. So if he does, I think he got a pretty good mismatch when it comes down to trying to how do you match up and guard these guys, because I mean 2 of the 3 of those guys are super tall and super strong and just can box you out and you just can't do nothing about it. So for me, I got the Raiders at 2. It was back and forth for me. I'm going to put Chargers 3. I had them at 4 at one point, but the Albert O, Dolchich, and to y'all's point that we just don't know how, again, to the deployment aspect, how Sean Payton deploys tight ends. He has athletes and has good tight ends in the room, just whether or not he uses them or not. I mean, hell, Taysom Hill was his number 1 guy for years in New Orleans before he left. So I mean,
I still think he's going to end up on the Broncos for this.
It's possible. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it at all. He's going to figure out a way to get him to sell them Taysom Hill in some facet.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think that for me, it's Chiefs 1, Raiders 2, Chargers 3, and Broncos 4.
Yeah, not that. Well, first off, I'll go to DZ here. You're correct. The Dolphins do have an amazing tight end room. One of those main reasons is because they picked up Saubert, which will immediately
Eric Saubert.
Which definitely going to take some targets away from Tyreek. That's for sure.
100%.
That's happening.
100%. And so I could not agree more. They have a spectacular tight end room. Saubert alone will do wonders for them. I'm not even joking. He's a perfect hybrid. And what the sad part about it is that Saubert is the perfect tight end for Sean Payton. He is exactly what Sean Payton wants. He is a blocking and pass catching tight end. It makes no sense why we did not keep Saubert. Like that.
He wanted Troutman.
That's why.
Yeah.
Troutman knows the scheme already.
Yeah. No, but in my opinion, Saubert could have been that 3rd or 4th tight end that you keep on the roster. He could also be a hybrid fullback if you wanted a guy like that.
H-back.
Again, he's just one of those dudes that kind of plays the wide array of positions that fits what Peyton's looking for, and why he went out and got Troutman. Right? The first thing he did was in the draft was get Troutman because he wanted a blocking hybrid tight end, which is basically like Saubert, right? So, anyways, I have number 1 KC. I don't even think it's close. I think the production of Kelsey is just inarguable. It is literally just that simple.
Yeah, I think that Mahomes and Kelsey arguments are just dead arguments at this moment.
Just stop. Just stop.
Yeah, really.
It's just pure hate if you try to say anything.
There it is.
Yeah.
Fight.
And then my next one is actually the Broncos. And the reason why I have the Broncos tight end room as high as I do is Albert O has had productive years and seasons with the Denver Broncos. He had them at the back end of last year when we fired our head coach, and you saw again what he can do, which is he's a freak. That dude's like a legit freak. And Dulcich showed as soon as he came back from his kind of quasi injury coming out of the draft, came right out the gate and just didn't stop. So I think you have 2 guys that are proven as tight ends in the league, in Dulcich and in Albert O. Contrary to what you guys said, I think that Payton, as an offensive-minded head coach, will adjust his offense to fit at least in some regard, to fit the personnel he has on the roster. And I think that's why I have Broncos ranked 2. Number 3, I have the Chargers. I think Everett had a very productive season last year. And number 4, I have the Raiders. Now, I think the Raiders can do what the Broncos did in the last position groups like I have for the Broncos, which is you have a bunch of new guys on there that you've never had on your roster before that, if utilized, can be some of the most productive tight ends in the league. But as we've belittled and kind of flogged at this point, the horse, so to speak, is they could not be used at all. They could just be sitting there as wasted space on the field and be used as another offensive lineman and nothing more. And at that point there, you're not really getting production out of them per se. You're just kind of getting another body. So I have the Raiders as ranked 4th for that reason alone. But by 4th game of the season, you could easily be 2nd or 3rd in very short order if McDaniels reverts back to some of those New England ways. Clayton, nice to see you.
Don't turn your back on our secret weapon, Jesper Horsted.
Who?
He's the 4th tight end of the room.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, he's
makes
number
the roster.
4.
I'll tell you what. I mean,
4.
I am as a football fan, maybe not a Chiefs fan, but I am excited to see if Michael Mayer can kind of build off of what he did at college. Because I mean, dude was a beast of a tight end in college, and I think has similar traits to like Gronk, right? And I mean, that's like asking a lot, but I think it's exciting at least to see if he can kind of carve out a Gronk-esque role in McDaniel's scheme and become a weapon like that. As a football fan, I'm excited to see that. As a Chiefs fan, I hope that does not happen. But,
right. Well, he's 3 inches shorter than Gronk. He's 3 inches shorter than Gronk, so we'll see about that. I'm curious. I'm very curious about how he's deployed and how he used them. But if McDaniels has the inkling,
but I mean.
Oh, it's not. No, not at all. I mean, but again, 6'7" is like with a 7'2" wingspan is a whole different animal too.
But I thought Johnny Smith going to New England was gonna just kill it in McDaniels' system. Because he's like a freak athlete. Same with kind of Hunter Henry, but not as much. But neither one of them really ended up doing anything.
Right.
And I mean, I know it's like that was also Cam Newton running the offense and a lot of different stuff. So. It could be different now that McDaniels is more, in control of who he wants running his scheme. So,
Cam running it one year, then you had a defensive coordinator calling plays the second year. You just a wash.
Yeah,
It's just a wash.
Can I quickly just speak to this comment here?
Sure.
I'm not sure. Well, so Renfro is a great slot guy. He is 100%. I don't think that's arguable. I think what the challenge is going to be is whether or not the slot position can actually be successful in the NFL any longer. And I'm going to delve into that just very quickly here. When you're playing nickel and dime and you're getting the athletes that we're getting into the league now playing at the safety, cornerback, and inside linebacker position groups, you are no longer dealing with the old thumpers that used to be in the league when the slot receivers were, we'll call it, reign supreme. So you're talking your New England guys and what was the other dude for the Rams? He was super good. I can't remember his name. He was with the Patriots too. Anyways, you had like Amendola. Yep. Yeah. So you had thank you. So you had Amendola. You had Wes Welker. You had a few of those types of guys that were just legit.
Edelman.
And then Renfro kind of came at the back end of that, for 1 year. And then all of the defenses did a complete polar flip. And they said, nope, nickel and dime almost all the time. And as a result, you lost the advantage of having the short, shifty guy. And that's why you're seeing Travis Kelce lighting the league on fire, because he's a veteran guy that can read the defense. And he's also 6'4" and 240 some odd pounds that can run quick.
And he just runs crispy ass.
Yeah, exactly. And he runs like a wide receiver, right? Like crisp routes, and he gets the route tree and the whole bit, right? So the whole point is now you're seeing the rise over the last multiple seasons of slot receivers not doing well, but you're seeing these kind of Everett's and Kelsey's and those types of players overtake the league because they are a position mismatch when it comes to being covered by a safety or a cornerback. And I think that's just until teams can force other teams to go back to what we call base defense, not the nickel and dime packages, you're just simply not going to get these slot guys, in my opinion, have the same level of success unless they are like a Tyreek Hill style speed in terms of elusiveness and other things like that. And Renfro's good. He runs amazing routes, but he does not have Tyreek Hill speed to kind of basically break guys' ankles in terms of getting off the ball and cuts and all that kind of stuff.
So guys, I'm going to,
but then you got Cooper Kupp though, who's like,
well, he's all over the field. He lines up everywhere. X, Y, slide. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter for him. What you got, Tom?
I'm gonna interject real quick because I'm gonna have to back out here, but I'm gonna introduce the next group, and then let you all kind of chew on that. And it's the defense. I'm looking just at the entire defensive side of the ball.
We didn't do wide receiver. I think we'll do defense next week, right, guys?
We need wide receivers.
Defense next week. Okay.
We got to do wide receivers now.
Okay, let me do. he's licking his chops there.
Right.
Okay. And in terms of receivers, I'm not talking about the ability of the quarterback to get the balls to the receivers. I'm talking about just the receivers groups by themselves in terms of talent. I have the Chargers first. Okay. I've got the Raiders second. I have the Chiefs third, and I have the Broncos fourth. Now I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it from a total standpoint, from what I view as being the production standpoint and the upside as well. If, in my opinion, if the cards are played correctly, and Brandon Staley plays his cards the way that I think he should, this Chargers offense is going to be formidable. I mean, it's going to be off the chain. There's going to be a lot of teams that will have trouble keeping up with them, and regardless of what their defense does, it's going to be the type of offense really that we all thought all four teams were going to have last year. Because we all thought that it was going to be just shootout week after week after week. I think that the receiving group is strong enough to sustain that. The Raiders, I think, have a strong group. Devontae Adams arguably is the best receiver in the league, arguably. And you combine that with, I think, is a very, very strong number two receiver in Jacoby Myers. Some people have said that he is going to be a slot, but I definitely think that he could be a number two. And then you have Renfrow in there, and then of course you've got the tight end as well. I think this is a very talented receiving core, one of the better ones in the league, and don't sleep on them. The Chiefs. I think that Sky Moore is going to go off this year. He
I hope so.
really played well toward the end of the year. I think he's going to emerge more and more. And I think, no pun intended there, but he's going to benefit from the fact that Kelsey's still going to get a lot of targets. But I really see him benefiting a lot. And I've also heard some talk this week that the Chiefs may be making a play for DeAndre Hopkins. You throw him in the mix. That's
you heard it here first.
Everything.
I just talked to him on the phone. I think it's a wrap.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, did you? Where's the money coming from? Is what I want to know.
Yeah.
You see, they got checking in the savings, and they just move a little.
And if he comes in, that automatically vaults the Chiefs. That automatically vaults the Chiefs up. The Broncos, again, you've got talent there, but I just don't see it on the same level with the rest of the teams in the league. Not to say they have a horrible unit, but I just think that's the way it stacks up. So, gentlemen, I'm going to have to catch your comments as I see the rebroadcast of it. But I appreciate you all having me in. and I look forward to jumping in again. I'm glad that I was able to humor you all with the with my offensive line assessment and bring some comedy to your night.
You definitely
So
woke Richie up. If he was
Oh,
asleep,
yeah.
you woke him up.
I've achieved my goal. So
I'll come
you
up and
did.
knock them out, making them pull the whiskey there.
There you did. There you did.
you all have a great evening.
Appreciate you,
Listeners,
Tom.
thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button. I will be joining you all hopefully very soon, and we will talk to you all soon.
Appreciate you.
Thank you for coming.
Take
I
care.
appreciate you joining us. That's spectacular. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So I kind of agree with some of that, but I disagree with some other things.
Similar.
So if you're removing the quarterback, and I mean honestly removing the quarterback from the situation, it's hard to not put the Raiders as number one. I'm sorry, it's just hard because Devontae Adams has had such longevity at production level. Like he is legit. I'm sorry, just
he's a freak.
He's
ridiculous.
You can split hairs all you want, but he's definitely top two. He might not be two.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I think my biggest thing was between them is I think Chargers definitely could be number one if you guarantee me that the injury setting is turned off for the whole year.
I like that. I like that. I like that. That's a good one. That's a good one, Alex.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah, the injuries, if we turn injuries off in Madden, then we're
got
golden.
fatigue and injuries off.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're good. Yeah.
That needs to be clipped right there. I don't think that's that's a spectacular little bit there. I love it. I agree. But I also think that the Chargers are a specific type of group. They're all taller. They are not necessarily known for their speed. There's one exception to that. So Coach Stimmer. There's one exception to that. But the vast majority of your wide receivers you have a polished route runner and you have a spectacular jump ball / developing route runner. And neither of them are particularly quick. And with the size of corners and the skill set of corners coming into the league now, you will start, in my opinion, to see even look at Damari Mathis for the Broncos as a cornerback coming in year one. He looked like a polished starter pick. Or sorry, a later round pick, not a first round pick, but a later round pick at the cornerback position. And I think that's something that needs to be factored into all of that when you're looking at the wide receiver group in terms of look how they go up against guys. And frankly, I think Devontae Adams is just, he's like the Patrick Mahomes, right, of the wide receiver room, in my opinion, which is, there's Devontae Adams, and then we start talking about who comes after. And so I think Adams until proven otherwise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Adams until he proves otherwise is kind of.
For how bad the Raiders' year was last year, Devontae Adams still had 14 touchdowns and 1,500 yards. So.
Right. So it's proven. It's ironclad that he's one of the best in the league because it didn't matter that he didn't have Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers struggled when Devontae still did his normal thing. So the production didn't drop. So I think the debate is over whether or not he needed Aaron Rodgers to be successful.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely. And
I agree.
That's why I put the Raiders one. I mean, Devontae Adams is in a tier of his own in terms of, wide receivers in this division.
He is the Patrick Mahomes of the wide receivers in our division.
There it is. I mean, it's hard to argue that.
He's the Patrick Mahomes of the wide receivers in our league, in my opinion, for what it's worth. So
it's up there, man. Like I say, it's a dependent position. Go ahead.
So my number two is the Chargers. Again, I'm removing the quarterback from the equation. My number three. This one was actually quite difficult for me to select in terms of the number three. just because I think that there's a lot of unprovens when you remove the quarterback from the equation. Again, removing the quarterback from the equation is the key in my statement here.
I put the Chiefs 4. So
and so as a result of that, I think from a pure production standpoint and skill set within the group, I put the Broncos 3rd and then the Chiefs 4th. But again, if you were to factor in the quarterback, I mean, truly factor in the quarterback, I mean, this all goes screwy because
it doesn't matter. I mean,
yeah, I mean, we're then talking.
Chiefs were supposed to be dog water because they lost Tyreek Hill and they won the Super Bowl.
How about that?
With MVS and Juju.
I said it before, and I said it again. The league messed up because you let the Chiefs win the Super Bowl and rebuild or retool. They haven't declared number 1 wide receiver. You still let them win the Super Bowl. So get ready for more of that in the next few years.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that though. I mean, I put the Chiefs at 4 too because I mean, really outside of Kelsey, who is a solidified presence in the passing attack, like you just don't know, like who's going to show up. There's a lot of upside with Tony, but dude's never healthy. I mean, we knocked Jimmy G for 10 minutes about never, we got to put him low because he's never healthy. Well, Tony is by all accounts going to be wide receiver 1, and dude is never healthy. So, that is a stick in and of itself right there. And then I think just with everyone else, I mean, there's no reason to rank the Chiefs higher than anyone else's wide receiver room, just because the guy throwing the ball is the best.
Yeah, I gotta agree with DZ on that one. I think Jack's he had a couple shots of Jack. I think Jack's been drinking Jack Daniels. I know Devontae's good and all, but it combine all the receivers in the division. Yeah, I don't know about that one. That's a bit of a reach. It's a bit of a reach. So who you got one through 3, Alex?
Sorry, Coach. For those that are on the other channels, I'm going to pull up Jack's comment here so that they can all be included in the lunacy that is this comment.
Yeah.
I think it's a fair question though. So let's say the core Raiders would be what? Adams, Renfro, and Jacoby Myers, right?
Right.
Like, what 3 would you take from around the league that would be a better combo than those 3?
The whole Chargers wide receiver group. Like, let's be real about it. It's not
Mike Williams, Keenan Allen.
Yeah, it's not as wide as of a gap as a group as people were alluding to. Like,
well, yeah.
Like, help again with injuries off. Keenan Allen's a 1,000-yard receiver. He's a 1,000. With fatigue and injuries off. Keenan Allen is a 1,000-yard, 8-touchdown receiver. So he's not, that far off. He's coming in second to Adams first as far as production is concerned. So Keenan Allen is your second guy that you bring in. Mike Williams is clearly an 800 to 1,000-yard receiver if he's fatigue is off and injuries off. He's that as well.
Oh, catching machine.
And then if Quentin Johnston, I think that right now, if you again supporting to your point about the slot receiver being different, if you line up a 6'3", 6'4" guy in the slot in Quentin Johnston versus Hunter Renfro, I think Quentin Johnston has a better year with Justin Herbert throwing him the ball.
4-3.
Hello. So I mean, let's not get too off the rails here.
Well, I actually think that.
There we go. That's what I was looking for. You just gave me the cop out.
Yeah.
You gave me the cop out. You're like the Chargers. I was like, what 3 would you pick? Patrick.
So I think that if you're to combine groupings, I mean, I think you look at like first off, Tim Patrick is a machine. Like he got hurt for the first time in his career last year ever. So that's like, I'm not willing to put the injury label on Tim Patrick. He's been in the league for too long and not gotten hurt. Until he can kind of show that that's his new MO, I'm willing to say that that's an anomaly and it is what it is, right? Now, Sutton and Patrick. So first off, what a lot of people don't realize is Tim Patrick has been clocked at similar speeds once he gets going to Jerry Jeudy. The problem is, not Jerry Jeudy, Tyreek Hill. The problem is Patrick is way bigger and just simply takes longer to get up to that speed. But Tim Patrick is like 6'4", and like
212.
200 and
In
212.
MVS though is that fast too. I think I think
MVS is legit
Scantling-
4.3. I don't know what
He
Tim
just can't
Patrick
catch.
40 is. Yeah, well, yeah. But Tim Patrick, I mean, MVS runs a legit 4.3.
Right. But the point being is that if you're looking at a guy, if you're saying who you're going to put up against a collective group to get similar production or whatever the case may be, I mean, Tim Patrick is a machine. He catches
4.47.
everything that's thrown within his vicinity. Yeah, but he goes faster than that when you see him on the field. When you like, they have had clock speeds where Tim Patrick's been at the top of the league once he gets going in terms of the next gen stats. When you look at those, the next gen stats, he is a pretty remarkable player, which kind of sets him apart. But I just think that it's disingenuous to simply say that one guy is going to beat out the rest of the division. I think that you need to look at the totality of the room.
That's just vehemently disrespectful. Like it's not even. That's just wrong on so many levels.
Yeah,
Devontae's great and all, but
we can
let's slow our roll.
But he's got to hit his peak at some point here.
Sure.
Yeah, like you can start looking at the totality of the room and start having different arguments in terms of, say rankings 2 through 4. But generally speaking, if you're going to be purely objective, which one thing I really like about the podcast here is that we're, with the exception of T3 trying to rank his offensive line like number 2.
You're not gonna let that go.
No, I'm not. I'm still.
Hey, he put the Chiefs last.
Blows my
like,
mind.
come on.
Yeah, that blows my mind. But when you look at the totality of the wide receiver room, I mean, I have a hard time not ranking the Raiders as number 1, excluding the quarterback. When you start factoring in the quarterback, then you start getting into how fast can your guys run? How sure-handed are they? How good are they at, improvising? So like Mahomes is an improvised machine. So can they kind of yin to his yang kind of thing in terms of how they run routes and stuff? All of those other elements come into the discussion. That is not how we kind of prefaced our collective discussion here. We prefaced it as basically saying, remove the quarterback. What are the skill sets of the wide receivers? And that is important.
Yeah.
Again, if you're going to have an argument, you need to make sure you're still arguing over the same topics with the same parameters.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's kind of what we're trying to do here. We're trying to lay the groundwork to make sure that we're all trying to talk about the same thing with the same parameters so that we're not, crisscrossing over one another and talking about different things. So the only position group left is the fullback.
Are we really doing that? Well, I didn't get my official list. Let me get my official list before we move on.
Yeah, I gotta get mine too. No, actually, not really. Kind of.
Did you give 1, 2, and 3? Because you put the Chiefs 4, right? But you didn't give.
Yeah.
Did you give who's 1, 2, and 3 for you?
I had Raiders 1, Chargers 2, Broncos 3.
Okay.
Chiefs last.
Alex mirrored mine.
Okay. So, out of curiosity, what's the difference in? Is it just purely injury for the Chargers versus the Raiders?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the biggest thing with me is both Allen and Williams put up decent stats last year when you consider the fact that they didn't play that much. So I mean they're definitely up there. It was it was more Devontae was like the weighing factor of me putting Raiders 1. Because it's like, he's top 3 receiver in the league right now.
Right.
And just the lack of longevity of a season with the whole group, in terms of Chargers. But, like I said, if injuries are off, I'm putting Chargers 1 because if you're giving me all like Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Quentin Johnson, into the fold, but if you give me a healthy Keenan Allen, Mike Williams for full season, it's going to be pretty hard to not score a shitload of points. So,
right.
But the thing is just like Mike Williams, ultimate Chiefs killer, but also always gets hurt in those games. has some ridiculous play, and then he's like, you don't hear from him the rest of the game.
Right.
And it's like, and just stuff. So like that was like more of the deciding factor to put the Raiders one. I think when I initially did it, I had Chargers one.
Alex, so my question on that is, if you're starting doing hypotheticals, which is what you just did, because the Chargers are incapable of entering the proper cheat code to turn injuries off in the game called the NFL. They just simply just don't have the right book in front of them to get the right cheat codes. But at the end of the day, if you're going to start saying, well, if this happens, then this, okay, well, then you have Cortland Sutton, you have Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, and KJ Hamler. When you look at them when healthy, actually healthy.
Right, because we're taking too many caveats. Like, you gonna take the quarterback out, okay, I deal with that one. But now everything has to be equal after that point. If you're gonna take away the quarterback and just go skill set, let's just say everybody's healthy, 100%, injuries off, fatigue off. Who's the best guys? And it's hard to argue that the depth we just talked about it a couple weeks ago, how you got too many damn receivers in the Broncos room. Like, it's too many of y'all.
100%.
And everybody does something different. You got Tim Patrick running 4.4 with a 6.4. You got Cortland Sutton being a possession guy. You got Jerry Jeudy as a slot guy. You got Mims, Hamler, we're all running, blazing 40s and just taking the top off the defense. So
Jalen Virgil runs a legit 4.2.
I'm just saying, it's rough out there.
He runs a 4.2 to a 4.3, and when I say 4.3, he is like on that teeter mark of not actually being at a 4.3.
Right.
Like that's my point. Like, so if you're turning off all injuries and going pure hypothetical, I'm sorry, but like Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick have both shown out and had legit seasons at the NFL when they've not been injured on crappy teams with crappy quarterbacks. So if you're saying skill set wise, Cortland Sutton's like 6'3", Tim Patrick 6'4", and then you have Jerry Jeudy, who had spouts last year with the crappy quarterback where he actually looked good, which is kind of rare because he's had some real issues over his early part of his career. But if you're taking the best parts and best samples of their NFL careers and saying that they've kind of started to turn their own, I'm sorry, but you're going to be hard pressed, in my opinion, with those parameters to then say, take the depth and the room from the Denver Broncos. My comments were...
Tim Patrick didn't play at all last season? He got hurt before the season started?
Yeah.
He did.
Oh, okay. I thought he got hurt in the game. Okay.
No, he got hurt in preseason, I think.
He got out of the dumpster fire before it was...
before it started?
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, he saw the fire coming and ran.
I get it.
Yeah. But my point is, when you look at the depth of the wide receiver room, which, as you said, Coach, we spoke about last week. We spoke about it the week before. I mean, there will be guys cut from the Broncos wide receiver room that will likely start for other teams in the NFL. It's just a fact. I guarantee it. I'm sorry. I almost guarantee it. I mean, look at the Bills. The Broncos cut their slot. The Broncos cut, what's his name? He's with the Bills now. He's like the shifty dude. They call him the human joystick. Isaiah McKenzie.
Okay.
And he's now a starter for the Bills. He just did.
Is he still there?
Yeah.
He was.
I know he's there last year.
He was. Yeah, he was. But anyways, when you look at the Broncos in the wide receiver room, you have what I would refer to as all things being considered based on their great years or good years, Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton, which match up well versus healthy Keenan Allen and Mike Williams.
I don't know about that.
You have guys that catch the ball all the time. You have guys that are tall. You have guys that can run. You have route running. You have the one thing that Tim Patrick has that I guess Williams has it a little bit, but those sideline style catches that Tim Patrick makes, annoy the hell out of
I would
division.
argue that Mike is more famous
I
than
think,
Tim in doing that.
yeah, I think
he's
Mike's
more
a little
famous than
more-
Mike than Tim in doing those kind of things. There was a poll on Twitter the other day said if 1-on-1 50-50 ball, who you taking? And Tim Patrick wasn't even on the list. It was Mike Williams and a few other jump ball guys, but yeah, I don't think that Mike Williams is going to lose a
Tim Patrick
50-50
has never
contest
gotten his
between him
due
and
at the NFL.
True, like you said again, we just really
Tim Patrick
don't know.
Tim Patrick has never gotten the credit that he deserves for the quality and level of play that he's had at the NFL level. But yet, if you ask anyone within the division, the one receiver that they always seem to remember because of the stuff that he's pulled on them is Tim Patrick.
Oh, you listen. I got to see firsthand account of it when he's healthy. Man. It's not fun to watch. I mean, let's be real about it. But I think from a highlight reel perspective, from a production perspective, solely, I think that Mike Williams is more of a household name when it comes to those spectacular catches than Tim Patrick is right now. And now for the entirety of their careers, could be a different story. But what right now here today, I think Mike is more known for that than Tim is.
Mm-hmm. I would say so.
Okay.
So either way, I just think that when you start, this is kind of the point, though, right? Is that if we're going to start ranking guys, we need to or rooms in groups. This is why it's so important that when people on Twitter, YouTube, wherever you are, that when you're discussing topics, you need to make sure that you're all operating within the same parameters. Otherwise, you're never going to actually land on anything.
Well, that's the problem with Twitter, because people don't do that. They don't bring context to the argument. They just spout off nonsense, and that's why you get fight in arguments. Right. That's why you get in arguments all the time. And nobody ever sees anybody's point because they just talk about what context I'm in and what context you're in, and we're never on the same page.
I agree, and that's why I think it's so important that when we kind of bring in these things, that this is why it's great having the 3 of us or 4 of us on the podcast, where we kind of lay out the parameters by which we're actually talking about the same.
That's a good point, Biggie. I'd respect. I'd listen. I'm a Tim, as a football fan. I'm a Tim Patrick fan. Just not when he's playing the Chargers. Just not when he's playing the Chargers. When long as he stays out of LA, we're good. Stay the hell out of LA. We're good.
I saw that Keenan Allen didn't drop the ball last year either, but it was only 10 games.
Well, true. Yeah. Again, we got to listen. We're talking fatigue off, injuries off.
Well, yeah, injuries and fatigue are both off, and then all of a sudden Allen looks great, and then when both of those are turned on, different story, right? Yeah. So, anyways, guys, we've kind of covered the entirety of our offenses. I think that. By and large, with the exception of a few rogue comments made on the podcast so far, we have been at least objective as a collective group, which is nice to see. I think it brings a lot of value to those that have joined us live and those of us who are joining us after the fact, that we're not just all picking our own teams as number one just because we're fans of those teams, right? I think it's better that we're being objective to say, no, like my team sucks with this.
I'm trying to see. I think I only put the Chiefs. I guess I put them 1 of 3 things. Yeah.
Well, I mean, in fairness, like for quarterback, we all agreed.
Well, right? Yeah, it's hard to not.
There was it was like Chiefs and then everybody else, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
tight end, hard to knock that one.
Yeah, exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be covering the defensive side of the ball next week. We definitely want your feedback on that. We want your insight. For those of you who are joining us live, comments down below or comments in the chat now in terms of your rankings for the various position groups. Some of you did that as we were going along. Some of you did not. Super interested to hear what your rankings are. And if you were not able to join us live, leave those comments down below in each of the videos where you happen to be watching it live and give your rankings, and we will do our very best to respond back with why you are wrong or right, because that's just fun. We'll in serious, we will do our very best to respond back and kind of get some insight. And Obviously, make sure that we're talking about the same things with the same parameters. Otherwise, we're going to be arguing different points altogether, as we just covered earlier. And if you have any other questions for us or things that you felt we missed on this podcast, leave those quick comments in the chat now or forever hold your peace.
Indeed.
And we will see you next week, where the West Side is the best side. Peace!
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, go.